And we are recording again. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Fenton. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
I can't complain, man. Never do.
Don't do it. Don't try it. Not with me. Wrong guy. I want to welcome everyone to Products of Circumstance podcast. This is the podcast from Ken Skeen. It's that guy. And myself, Fenton Joseph. We discuss mental health and mindset matters through the lens of Black men. Clearly, we are Black. We cover topics like family and relationship trauma, relationships with money, self-worth, positive thinking, gratefulness, and so much more. The show is unscripted, unfiltered, and mostly unedited. We choose our topics randomly. If that doesn't work for you, I'm not sorry. But Ken is the only one who knows what we're actually going to talk about today, so he'll tell us in a second. But before we get into it, please like, subscribe, and share with somebody that you think needs to hear some wisdom in conversation about, all the topics that we talk about, mental health. We're just trying to help people. We're trying to share conversations that we have and that we think people should be having. And so hopefully this is helpful for you. All right, Ken, what are we talking about today?
Today we will talk about embracing change.
Embracing change? Oh, God.
Embracing change. Yeah, some people, enjoy it. Embrace it. Others do not. Some people are very scared of change. It frightens them. But it's something that happens. Change, I love it. I mean, I got used to it. Yeah, I got used to it at a very young age in my career path, and embrace it pretty well, actually.
What happens to you? Tell us what happened.
Would you like to
Who
share
did it,
with
Ken?
the audience? No, it's like, you know what? In work life, in family life, just different things change. And so I guess people embrace it in different ways. Some people will become depressed. Some will take on the new task at hand. Others will put themselves in their, little corner until they realize it's good or bad. I say embrace it. A lot of people, I guess it depends on the change also, how people embrace it. So if it's something that let's say someone is in the same career, right? Let's go with that.
Sure.
So you're in the same career for, 10, 15, 20 years.
Long time. You're a dinosaur.
And then all of a sudden, like what's going on, right now in the world, people are losing their jobs, or in the past 2 years with the pandemic, they've had to change their career paths. So, someone who was doing the same thing for 15, 20, even 30 years, let's say, had to move on to something new. That's a very abrupt change. Some embrace and some wilter. So when it's a very, let's say, stressful change, let's say, all right, you have people that will really embrace and say, all right, let me figure it out. Let me walk this new path. And as I go, I will learn.
I want to know what happened to you.
So what happened to me?
I want story time.
All right, story time would be this. Here's
man.
my embrace of change. All right, so I worked most of my young adult life in construction. If you've listened to previous podcasts we put out, you'll know that my father had a construction company that he started in 1990. I used to go on the job sites, reading blueprints and learning commercial construction. So went to college, graduated, couldn't get a job in graphic design that I felt was going to pay me enough. So I stayed in the family business. I did that from the age, realistically, I want to say probably from the age of 12. And I did that all the way through the age of 29.
Wow.
In some part of construction, whether it be, a contractor, whether it be a project supervisor, a project manager.
Wow.
Because I did not stay with the company after the age of 25. I branched out to do my own thing. But I thought that would always be, so you can embrace that change as well. I went from working with my father and working with the family business to, all right, I'm leaving and becoming project supervisor because I want to do a different path within the same field.
So you're working
I became a
schlep.
Right. So then I was working with a company in Woodbury, New York. That's in Long Island. I will not name the company. Very nice people, though.
Lovely.
I was a project super at the age of 25. And then 2 years later, I was laid off because construction took a little dip in 2007. I was able to find work within a month. I worked with another company in Garden City, New York, again in Long Island. I was with them for 2 years doing hospital renovations.
Wow.
Never did that in my life. Again, as a project super, but I had to embrace that small change. And then 2009 hit, and that's when construction took a dip. Anyone in the field knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then I really had to embrace change because I went a year of just doing like, off the books kind of work, roofing,
Right.
whatever it may be, just getting it done legally.
Legally, right.
Legally,
selling 2x4s out of the trunk of your car.
Doing some projects for people.
You need 2x4s?
You need some of these 2x4s, man. No, but at that point in my life, in 2009, I had 2 children. Married with 2 children at that point, and then I got into car sales in 2010. You want to talk about embracing change?
Right.
Yeah. 2010, I changed my entire feel. And I remember, so my wife had worked with the gentleman who I consider a mentor now in the business, worked with the gentleman at a previous dealership. She was a receptionist there part-time. And so I went in with my resume, which was, I felt was amazing. Like, look at this. I was a project manager, a project super, a contractor at one point. Look at this amazing resume. And he took a look at it and he said, listen, I give you 30 days.
He's like, I don't know what roofs have to do with cars unless you can sell a moon roof.
Yeah, man, let me tell you something. That was definitely a punch in the face with a brick when I realized this amazing resume I really believe I had meant nothing. I was starting from the bottom all over again. And I had to take a gut check real quick on this gentleman just told me, 30 days, figure it out. We'll give you 2 weeks of training, then put you on the floor, sell cars. Because if you don't sell, we don't need you.
Right.
You're easily replaceable. And I'm like, what is going on right now?
And don't bring your hammer to work.
But did you see my resume?
Leave your buzzsaw at home. We're selling cars. Okay.
Yeah, that was eye-opening experience.
That's a big deal.
For the fact that my entire life dealt around some kind of commercial construction or residential, and now I'm sitting in a dealership selling cars,
I mean, I've known you for a good while, and to be honest, you're just bringing back to my memory the fact that you were in construction for a really long time. Because when I think of Ken, I think about cars. Because you really embraced that change and you threw yourself into it and became a consummate professional and successful to the point where that's just what Ken does. He knows cars, he sells cars, he manages, the dealerships, and that he's the car guy. So I think that's amazing that you pivoted in that way. And, I like to say you have to plan to pivot because life is going to throw things at you. You don't know what's going to happen, and you just got to be ready. Just be ready. Let's say with cars, right? I was talking with my wife today about our car, which you were instrumental in us getting. Thank you very much. It's lovely. And it's got this cool feature where it's like smart city brake assist or something like that. And if the car senses that you're about to run into another car, it'll prime the brakes so that when you hit the brake, it brakes with full power, full braking force. And the car is thinking ahead, you know what I'm saying? Constantly planning just in case you need to step on those brakes. And I think we can be complacent, especially when you're on the job for a long time. It's like you're kind of coasting, but you never know when you're going to have to pivot. You're going to have to hit those brakes and be like, oh, snap. All right, what am I going to do now? Some people, they take it really hard, like you said, and they can, because the emotional stress can be a lot, they can deal with it in different ways, like drugs or alcohol or, depression. Not that you choose to get depressed. I'm not saying that, but it can come upon you. I want to go back to what you said about leaving the family business and then branching out on your own, because I'm sure that working with your father, for for that amount of time, it must have been a decent working relationship. I don't think you would have stuck around if it weren't. Am I right?
No, it was decent. We had our days because on the job site he wasn't dad, it was boss. So he definitely kept that line. Mm-hmm. But it was decent where I really enjoyed and had a passion for what I was doing. I was passionate about building because it was nice to, make something with my own hands and say, look, built that.
Okay. So. And what changed when you left the family business? What were the challenges that you felt you needed to embrace and say, all right, this is just what life is going to be like not working with my father. I'm gonna have to make this work or I'm not. What did that feel like?
So when you made the comment just now where, sometimes you make the decision to pivot or embrace that change. That's what I did. I wanted more responsibility with the company, but he wasn't ready to give up responsibility. That was his baby that he started in 1990 and there's only so much I want to give up. So it came down to the point of just like me deciding, well, if you're not going to give me the responsibility to grow, I'll take it upon myself. I'm going to show you what I can do.
So it was like Kyrie going to Boston, basically.
That was it. You know what I mean?
I wanted to be a franchise player.
I wanted to prove a point to myself that I didn't need the family business to succeed, and it was scary. When I left, I'm not gonna lie, man, it was all right. Am I doing the right thing here? Yeah. But it was one of the best things I did was leave the family company to really walk my own path and just embrace that change in my life of it's just going to be scary. It's something new, but I know the foundation. I'm going to stick with that and just go with it. And let's see where it takes me.
I love that you said that you knew the foundation. You had been doing the work. And I think something that people forget whenever they're doing something new, where there's a change, is that they've already been doing the work. And there's always transferable skills. Obviously, right now we're talking about jobs. We're not talking about like relationships, stuff like that, although that it could apply there as well. But Let's say you're on a job and you have to switch and do something that you've never done before. You're renovating hospitals or hospital floors, you said. A screwdriver is still a screwdriver. A hammer is still a hammer. There's certain foundational things that we know. And I understand that there may be some things that we're just not familiar with. There may be terminology that's esoteric. That's a big word. It means, like only people who do this use that terminology. Right. It's specific to a certain vertical or what have you. And, maybe you have to, spend some time embracing the fact that you need to learn. Maybe it's time for YouTube University. Maybe it's time to get a certificate course from a college or university so that you can get the training. Maybe it's time to read a book, whatever the case. I'm doing a lot of YouTube training right now. Right. I got this book called The YouTube Formula. I'm not promoting the guy's name, so I'm not going to say. But I'm really trying to figure out how to crack the YouTube code. We're on YouTube. This is going on YouTube, and I don't know what I'm doing. So I bought a book. Oh, my God. Who'da thunk? Get a book, man. Figure this stuff out. We've been doing the podcast. Well, our other podcast, School's Over Now What, with Sean Anthony. We've been doing that for 4 years, since 2018. And it wasn't until 2022 that we started putting the episodes up on YouTube, I think in 2020. But we didn't really get serious about trying to crack this YouTube algorithm code and master it until this year. It just wasn't our area of focus. But now we got to embrace it. We realize that it's a huge part of our growth for the company in the future. And we don't know what we're doing, so we have to learn. We both bought the same book. We're constantly sending each other posts on social media, like, okay, check out this YouTube hack, check out this. I've invested in some software so that I can understand keywords and SEO and figure this stuff out. And I'm also investing time into it. I own a web design agency. I have an actual business to run. I'm putting a little bit of that, to the side during the day so that I can focus on figuring out how to make this YouTube stuff pop. Right. And that's embracing change. You know, the business is different than it was 4 years ago. It's not just we record our podcast every week, we create the assets for social media, and we book the guests, and we, you know, do this and do that, and the streaming platform, and, you know, making sure everything's running right. It's not just that. Now we're trying to build a business. And there's so much more that needs to be done to monetize it and to make it successful. And I'm absolutely loving the journey, because we talked about this as far as starting this podcast, is when you get that feeling again, where it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but then it's new and it's exciting and I'm going to learn. It's like, I like to be in that place. I like to be on the edge. And I think that's why most of my professional career has seen me always creating something new. Fenton's always doing something new. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm helping somebody, you know, to start a business, build a business, or even in the corporate world, I was at the Fringe as like a brand manager or communications person. I was bringing Twitter, right, to a mortgage company that I worked at. They didn't have a Twitter account. I was tapped to get into social media and start working on that. Like anything with communications and media and Fringe, I love it. Mm-hmm. Starting the microphone company. Why would two black kids from Long Island, you know, in their 20s think that they could start a microphone company when all the people who had microphone companies were 50, 60-year-old white guys, you know, either from Europe or the Midwest? It seemed doable. It seemed like it was possible. You know, what did Jay-Z say? Difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week. And that's always the mindset. There isn't anything that you can't do. You just take the lessons and the knowledge that you've learned and picked up over time doing lots of other things, because you have experience in something. You know, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down because there's a litany, and I don't want to leave out anything and make anyone feel, you know, like trivialized. But like as a stay-at-home dad, I've grown a lot. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot of soft skills. For a guy who is like a communications director and client relations management and spent so much time working with people, I learned more soft skills dealing with my baby and, you know, who's become a toddler over the past 4 years, you know, than I ever did in the office. You want to talk about negotiating, reconciliation, and, you know, peaceful outcomes. Like, you know, I could take those skills anywhere.
So. I actually have a question for you, because I know we're talking about the business sense of it, but
yeah,
I know I'm going to ask you a question. I'm just going to throw something in there. Like mine wasn't as, I guess, difficult to embrace as yours, but let's say family sense now instead of business sense when it comes to embracing change. You know, when I was 10, my family moved us from East Flatbush, Brooklyn, you know, 1-bedroom apartment, 4 people in a 1-bedroom apartment, to a house in Westbury, New York, Long Island. Mm. So I went from a neighborhood filled with Black and Hispanic to a neighborhood that was Black and then also had Jewish, had Italian, you know, predominantly white school that I went to.
Yeah.
That was a change that I had to embrace, because the only white people I was around in Brooklyn were either Italian or Hasidic Jew, but everyone kind of kept their distance from each other. Yeah. Now I was kind of thrown into the mix. But your story of embracing change when, you know, mom decided to move and you had to kind of say, oh, wow, I got to figure out my life now. Can you share that?
Oh, man. Jeez.
Yeah. I'm not saying you bring up any scars, but you had to embrace a lot of change. So, I mean, just like a short clip on what you had to endure and what you went through to share with the audience on how you had to embrace change in your personal family life.
Sure. Okay. I can do this. So I grew up upper middle class in a white suburb in Long Island. Like, we both grew up in Westbury. I grew up closer to Old Westbury by the high school. And it's a neighborhood called Wheatley Villa. And just call it Whiteley Villa. We were the only Black people there. And it was all good growing up, like 2 cars in the driveway, nice house, big yard, vacations every year, lots of access, to a good life and opportunities. And when my parents split, we ended up moving to an apartment still in Westbury, but it was a much smaller apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment with my mother and my little brother. And we stayed there for a couple years, and then my mom's bounced. She went down south. Little brother went down south, and everybody was just out. And I remember it happened so quick. It wasn't like, guys, maybe in 6 months or so, or sometime next year, I'm thinking about maybe just, moving. Nah, it was like, yo, this month we out. I was like, whoa. I had a job. I did have a job at the time, but it wasn't like I was caking off. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't Warren Buffett. I was making like 30 grand a year or something like that. And she was like, yeah, we out. So little brother bounced. Basically everybody in my family moved out of New York except for my dad and my older brother. And they were established, they had their own thing. But I was at the apartment with my mom's, and I just had to figure it out. So a buddy of mine told me about a room that I could rent that was pretty much in the hood, for all intents and purposes. Newcastle.
It was hood.
And I mean, hey, most of my friends grew up in Newcastle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like most of my friends grew up in Newcastle, what we considered a hood in Westbury. And I ended up moving over there, and it wasn't the nicest. It was not the nicest. I ended up moving. Oh my God. It was like being catfished. It was like, hey, Fenton, I know you need a place to stay. Yo, there's a room over here. Talk to this person, and they'll hook you up. It's like, oh, sounds great. It's cheap weekly. I paid weekly, for the rent. And I moved in there. On the outside, it seemed very chill. And then when you went inside, you noticed some things were, kind of different because it looked like a regular house. But when you go inside, everything, it was all cordoned off so that every room in the house was basically like a little mini apartment. You know what I'm saying? There had to have been like 14, 15 people living in this house. Mind you, it was a cape. Everybody, if you're from Long Island, you know what a cape is. You know what I'm saying? Like little Levittown cape. Like it's got like 2 bedrooms upstairs. It's got like 2 bedrooms downstairs, a kitchen and a living room. It's not a big place. But there was like 15 people living in this house. And I remember in the kitchen, bro, the cabinets had locks on them because everybody had their own like cabinet basically. So I went into a house that was full, so I didn't get like a cabinet, you know what I'm saying, like to myself. And the refrigerator, I remember had roaches in it. There was roaches everywhere. The refrigerator had roaches in it. So I used to buy like ham, not ham, I hate ham, bologna and cheese to make some sandwiches. And you keep the bologna in the fridge. Go in there one day, the bologna, the roaches on the bologna dog. It's just like, I hate this. Because again, I grew up upper middle class. Mercedes in the driveway, Lexus in the driveway. Nice life. I had a nice life. My parents, they gave their children a nice life. Mm. And then you're renting a room in the hood with roaches everywhere. I ended up always eating out. I ended up spending most of my income on food because I would always eat outside the house.
Right.
Because I didn't want to bring food home because there was mice, right? So if I ate food in my room, then I got mice problems. I mean, even if I didn't eat food in my room, I had mouse problems. I ended up one night. All right, so the roaches was whatever. I could deal with the roaches. I hate roaches today. To this day, I hate roaches. But at the time, I was like, all right, whatever. I'm here. It is what it is. Until I could do better, this is what I got. I could deal with the roaches. But the mice, nah. There was this mouse.
There's a limit.
Mickey Mouse would come in. There was a hole in the wall behind this desk that I had set up in this little circle hole. So, me being dumb, we ain't never had no mice or rats before, so I don't know what's going on. So I take like a credit card and I put it in front of the hole. And I'm like, yeah, that'll keep them from getting in. No, mice chew through anything, all right? They chew through metal. So it chew through the little credit card thing, little, debit card, which was expired. Anyway, that was great because I didn't need a shredder for my expired debit card. I could just leave it out for the mouse.
It's a new business.
So one night, the mouse comes. I'm sleeping, and I open my eyes. I look up, and the mouse is staring me in the face, and I lost it, man. I think just the frustration of everything, like the roaches and the mice, and there starts to be like a bit of hopelessness that sets in. Whereas before, growing up the way that I did, there was so much hope and so much possibility. That was a huge change for me. Just mentally, what I saw was so bleak. And never mind the people that were getting beat up in the house. Like the people in the apartment next to me were fighting all the time. The guy would get drunk, beat up on his woman. She'd be banging on my door like, call the cops, let me in. Ah. And she used to hit on me too. She used to hit on me while the guy was away at work during the day. And then he'd come home and I'm like, I'm make sure that I used to sleep with a Tonto. You know what a Tonto is?
No.
A Tonto is it's a short sword, right? It's a short blade, like a Japanese.
Oh, is that what the Japanese warriors would?
Seppuku.
Thank you.
Yes.
If they dishonored themselves, or
I had a Tonto and a hammer on my bed because the guy was crazy. The guy had just gotten out of jail for murder. I'm not making this up. The guy next to me had gotten out of jail for murder, would get drunk, beat up on his wife, and then she would come knocking on my door, and she was hitting on me. That was crazy. The guy downstairs was beating up on his woman. I mean, he must have been throwing her against the roof or the ceiling because, the floor would just be shaking so much. There was so much crazy stuff going on and drugs, and it was just madness. And like I said, coming from where I grew up, which was really nice, and then dealing with that was pretty tough mentally. But I'm a mentally tough dude. You know what I mean? Like I kept my head down. I'm on my business, and I was like, look, this is where I'm at, but it's not where I'm going to be forever because I grew up with a certain mentality. The world is yours. Whatever you can see and dream, you can make it happen. My mother was an entrepreneur, right? Whatever she wanted to do, she went out and she did it. I saw my dad go to work every single day. I knew that hard work pays off because I knew the bills were paid. We had a nice house. I put the two together and my mentality was, if you can dream it and if you work hard, you can make it happen. So I've never been the type of person to be stifled by my environment, and it didn't take too long. I was there for a little while in the hood, and it didn't take too long before I kind of leveled up at work and I was able to, make more money. I got into a different housing situation, which still had roaches, even though the dude was like, hey man, like, I know you're struggling, over there, the roaches, and I don't have any roaches in my place. I got a room, you can stay there. I went there, roaches. Good roaches, man. If I see a roach,
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you, man.
Those were challenging times mentally. It was hard financially also for a while. I was borrowing money to pay rent. Sometimes I didn't have the money to pay the rent. Sometimes I didn't have money to eat. I was selling stuff out of the trunk of my car for a minute. Like, again, if you grow up a certain way where you have a certain amount of privilege, we grew up going to Radio City, in a limo, see the Rockettes and stuff like that. And and then you're, ducking mice and, borrowing money to pay the rent. Like, it can mess you up. But like I said, train up a child in the way that they should go. And, I did not depart from it. I stuck to the script and made sure I did what I had to do to stay mentally strong and keep going. And I think all in all, I turned out okay. Praise God. Thank God.
You're not so bad.
Nah.
You're not so bad.
I'm gonna thank God and give him praise for where I am today. It would have thrown a lot of people for a loop. But, I'll just sum it up by saying where you are that's just where you are today. It's not where you're going to end up. You know what I'm saying? Your present circumstances, the podcast is called Product of Circumstance. Yes, you are where you are today, but it doesn't mean that you can't move past those circumstances. But you got to have the mental fortitude to say, all right, I still see the path. I still see the way out. Sometimes the problems that's so close to you, it blinds you. You know what I'm saying? It gets in the way and it's like, all I can see is my problems. I have problems and I'm like peeking over them to see like, nope, the goal post is still over there. As soon as I am done dealing with this right here, I'm on my way. So yeah, that was a trip. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Fenton.
Roaches and mice.
No, you know what it is, man. Like I said, we're discussing about embracing change, and it's not just a work life. I know I didn't want to get stuck on just embracing work life change, but there's family life, there's personal issues that you have to embrace sometimes. And like you said before, pivot. And I'm happy that you mentioned, and the reason I asked you the question, the reason I asked you to just share that experience is because you have people that have that experience, right? Or you have people that never got a chance to experience, the limos to Rockefeller Center.
I thought you were going to say never got a chance to experience mice.
No,
it was like a luxury.
There's plenty of people experiencing
Everyone should get to experience
but they never even got a chance to experience the, I don't want to say the luxury, the peace of mind that, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
All they know is roaches and mice. All they know is I live in the hood. All they know is, no, my family isn't together. My parents aren't together. That's all they know.
Yeah.
But then you did mention that, well, remember where you are right now does not mean that's where you're going to be tomorrow, next year, 5 years, 10 years from now. So you need to embrace the different changes in your life. You need to pivot in your life, in your career, in your family, in your mental health, so that you can become and grow into the person that you know you are. So
I love it. Ooh, I'm sorry. The person that you know you are. The person that you know you are. I never forgot who I was. My value, my worth. None of that was determined by my circumstances, by my environment. You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents did a really great job of instilling in me self-worth. I'm a king. I was a king when I was living well. I was a king when I was in the hood. I'm a king now. Like, to your point, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to your point, when you talk about people who didn't grow up a certain way, all they know is living in the hood, all they know is trauma, all they know is issues, all they know is getting beat down by life, there does need to be a reprogramming there. You know what I'm saying? I had the luxury and the blessing of being in an environment where I was programmed to see possibility, to see opportunity, and to see the bright side of things. So I always like to say, I'm just on my way back to where I was supposed to be. That's what I was thinking when I was going through, when I was in the dip, when I was down at the bottom.
Right.
I'm like, I'm just passing through because I am who I am. The prodigal son was still the prodigal son. Yeah, he was out there, in the mud with the swine, but he was still who he was. He was still his father's son, and he was still due his inheritance, and he was just passing through the muck and the mire. And I think it's really hard for people, if they don't know who they are and have that worth, to put their circumstances in the right context and say, I'm just passing through. It's just a storm. It's going to pass over. They're like, no, this is life. It's always stormy. It's always cloudy. And I'm like, no. How do you convince somebody of that? I don't have the answer.
They need to convince themselves, and people can tell me all day it's easier said than done to be positive. I do get asked when someone first meets me or, gets a chance to sit down and talk to me. I get like same question a lot. is, why are you so positive? How do you stay so positive all the time? And look, I'm not saying my life was horrible. It's not in any possible way. I went through bumps in my own life that some people would have cracked. But I've always had this whole mental health of it'll be better tomorrow. If you got through, you have to think about it. The older you get, right, you can think back more. So when you're in your 30s and 40s, you really start to think back about those bad days. You just shared your stories. You think about those bad days and those times you thought, looks like I'm frozen. Let me know when.
Okay.
All right. So as you get older, you know, you're in your 30s and 40s, and you look back on those days that you had, you know, a bad day, a bad week, a bad year, but you made it through. And in that moment, you maybe didn't think that you would make it through and see the light and be in a positive state of mind again. But when you start to look back and reflect your life, you realize that's all it was. It was a bad day.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad year. You had a bad 5 minutes in a day, but you turned it into a bad day. And like I said, when people sit down and talk to me and say, well, how do you stay so positive? Because if I have $10 and I lose one, I still have $9.
Right.
So will I be sad that I lost my dollar? Okay. But I'm happy I still have my $9. So you need to really go through life like that. And it's not easier said than done. It's pretty easy to do as long as you can actually train your mind to think that way, that it's look at the positive in things. And if more people just did that, I'm not talking about depression, because there's depression that's truly a chemical imbalance.
Very real.
I'm just talking about your state of mind, your mental health, to know that you can get through it and you will get through it because you have.
Right.
I don't care if you're 15 years old and you look back when you were 9, when your favorite toy broke. You got through it. All right. You will get through it, but you have to have the state of mind to embrace the different changes and embrace the pivots and embrace that everything will be okay. One quote, or not a quote, but one saying that I use it on a daily basis is, someone wishes they had your problems. I say it on a daily basis to people I work with, people in my family. Someone wishes they had your problems. And a lot of problems, especially in the country we live in, are first world problems.
Yeah, man.
Stop telling, there's a leak in my basement. I had to hurry, go home and stop. It's a first world problem. Right. Oh, my car tire blew out and stop it.
Hold up.
First world problem.
Yeah. You have a basement? Hold on. You have a house? What? You can afford your mortgage and your taxes? What?
Look, man, you really got to reflect. You have to reflect. You have to embrace what's been given to you in life, what you worked for. Yes, things can be taken away from you. I've had, in my personal life, I've been bottomed out a few times. And while I was down there in that dip, and I love that you mentioned the dip, Seth Godin, shout out. You have to remember, in that dip, you're not going to be down there forever. Nope. You're going to go back up. Just like the stock market, right? It dips and goes back up. Well, your life too will go back up. Your positive emotions will go back up, but you got to get through it.
Right.
You really got to get through it.
I want to, for anyone who's listening, I want to highlight that sometimes there are bad years, you know, and sometimes it's not 5 minutes, it's 5 weeks, it's 5 months, you know, it's a year going through there. You know, there's been times where people in my life, I've seen them go through like a family member was sick, and that sickness wasn't for a week or two. It changed their lives, where they're now caretakers until that person died. You know, and it was years that they had to deal with that. And so, you know, I want to just acknowledge that, yes, it is real that we will go through some things that it's more than just a storm passing over, right? Like, oh, it's rainy today, but it's sunny tomorrow. Like, nah, it's raining and it's raining and it's raining. It won't stop raining. That's real. And like you said, depression is real. And sometimes you don't lose $1 and you still got 9. Sometimes you lose $9 and you just got 1. So we want to make sure that, you know, people feel acknowledged, you know, that their troubles are real. I don't know what to say off the cuff to somebody who says, yeah, it's fine, I still got $1 left, but I lost the 9. And they just, you know, focus on that. I think it's important to feed yourself mentally, you know, and with wisdom. You know, read books. Sometimes you got to just read a book about being positive. You know, start to understand the power of words and, you know, writing affirmations and down and repeating those every day. Your words have so much power, and you know this, bro. When you hear somebody who's focusing on the negative things, they're speaking about it. And their words are just amplifying the negative, and they're not amplifying the positive. And if you can, in your mind, just, you know, in your troubles, in the midst of your troubles and everything, just give it a shot. Give it a shot. Wow, what a terrible day today was. And I have a place to go home to and lay my head.
Right.
Man, you know, that thing really sucked. And I have my health and I can deal with it. You know, write down a list of things that you're grateful for. This is a podcast. We're trying to do something new for us, right? But let's be honest. A lot of this stuff has been said before. What we're really hoping is that people will hear it from us and it'll resonate with them because it came from us. Okay?
Yes.
Whether it's the way that we look, the way that we talk, you know, the way that we say it. But this isn't new. Gratitude is very, very important. Making time every day to just say, man, let me make a list of the things that I'm grateful for. Because now your mind and your words are focusing on those things and you're amplifying those things, and you start to push down. You don't have room in your mind for the negative things because you're just focusing on the big thing. Whatever you focus on, that's what gets bigger, right? You have like a basketball player and they're in the zone and the basket is just like, you know, it's like the ocean and they just can't miss, right? Because they're just focused on that. If you're focused on the guy in front of you that's trying to block your shot, you know, what do you think is going to happen, right? Don't focus on the distractions. Start to say out loud, wow, I'm so thankful for this microphone that I have. It's not the $2,000 model that I want, but man, it sounds great, you know? You know, my hat looks a little off in certain color. Maybe it's not the camera exactly that I wanted, but it's a blessing to have because my boy got it for me and I didn't need to spend a dime on it. And it works great. My skin looks good. I look like I'm drinking my water. No filter. You know what I mean? Like, let's focus on the positive and you'll start to think less about the negative. And over time, it becomes less of a Jedi mind trick and more of your reality, because where you focus your thoughts, that becomes your actions, and your actions become your life. You know?
That's right.
Embrace where you are. Don't lose sight of where you're going. Mm-hmm. That would be my advice for dealing with change.
That's well said. Seriously.
That's what the teleprompter said. So I just read what was on. Every time. That's going to be my response.
Oh, man, listen. For the audience listening in, look, like Fenton just said, this has been said before. You'll have plenty of podcasts out there saying it to you again. We feel it may resonate with people that look like us, because look, I'm not putting down I'm not putting down anyone. I mean, I'm not, but you don't have too many black men out there putting out positivity on a podcast.
Where they at?
I said on a podcast. There. I didn't say they weren't out there.
They out there.
I said on a podcast.
He said podcast.
I said podcast.
That's what he said.
But yeah, it's always been said. And I agree with Fenton. Pick up a book. And anyone who says, well, you know, I don't like to read, stop. That's what audiobooks are for. Instead of listening to your next favorite CD, download an audiobook.
I don't like to listen.
But do something. Do something to get more positive messages in your head. You really got to speak positive of yourself because it's real. If you speak negative about yourself, that's what you're going to amplify in your brain, in your atmosphere, in your world, into the universe. It's real. If you speak more positive, that's what you're going to bring. More positivity into your universe.
More life.
Practice it. Try it. Try it out. You know, how about this? How about an exercise for the listeners?
Let's do it.
If you don't for 1 month, for 30 days, for the next 30 days, right? Listen to an audiobook once a week. Most of these audiobooks are 2 hours to 7 hours long. If you take a long drive, you can listen to it in a few days. Yeah. You can listen to it as you work out. Just listen to some audiobooks that are more about positive messages to yourself. Try saying more positive things about yourself. Try writing in a journal. I'm saying 30 days and see if there's a difference.
Every day. I look good.
You know what I'm saying? Just for 30 days, try it out and see the differences that still begin to happen in your mind, in your life, when you start talking more positive about yourself and embracing changes in your life. Look, it's not easy. It's not. But the benefits are amazing. So why not try it? Okay. What do you have to lose? Yes.
I've been in the gym 2 days.
Yeah.
2 days. I thought I'm back in the gym now.
Right.
2 days. I'm already feeling sexy. I'm like, I look
So
good.
Do you just go to the gym or are you working out?
I park out front and I see the people going in and coming out, and it motivates me, and that activates the cells in my body, my metabolism. No, I went to the gym last night about 11 p.m. and I went to the gym on, I think, Monday. And I'm taking it easy because, I had injuries and I've been out of the gym. This is my last example, and then I'm done. I hurt myself. I hurt my wrist in like 2019. I was in the gym 5 days a week. And unfortunately, it really knocked me off my feet now, baby. And what it did for me was I can't exercise and I can't eat well if I'm not exercising, or I don't. And I don't. What?
I'm sorry. It looks like you're a mime and you're stuck in a box. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm focused. I see my destination. So after I was out of the gym, my eating just spiraled. And I wasn't depressed, but I was very sad about not being able to work out because I was making amazing progress. And for me, I just let myself go. I put on a ton of weight, and I did have a legitimate reason to not go to the gym because my wrist was really jacked up. And it's been a couple years now, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give it a shot. I'm going to go in there and see what I can do because there are some things I can do. I have to embrace this change, and I was not doing that. The change was I injured my wrist, so benching, a lot of weight, curl, I keep hitting my mic, curls, all these things I couldn't do anymore. But I can still work out my core. I can still do legs, right? I can still walk on the treadmill. There's things that I could have been doing, but mentally I said, no, I'm out. I can't do anything. I'm an invalid. And, I had to mentally get to a place where I said, Fenton, I'm not happy where I am. I'm not going to stay fat forever. I'm going through. I'm in the dip, but there is another side. I just have to change the way that I get out of this dip. I can't climb using the same strength that I had before because I literally don't have it. But I can still figure out a way to get to the other side. And I'm so motivated right now to shed all this weight and to put back on muscle, and I'm eating right again. And my whole mentality has begun to shift already. And I don't look at cake the same anymore. And I don't look at, the sweets and I'm like, oh, this, I know what this feels like. This is discipline. This is what a disciplined life feels like. Oh, I know what to do. It's time to get to bed so I can get rest so my body can repair. Oh, it's time to go get these protein shakes and drink this water. My mind is slowly getting back into that disciplined state. You know what I'm saying? Because I remembered who I am. You know what I mean? I'm that guy. I'm Mr. Meal Plan. I'm Mr., 3 miles a day. I'm Mr. whatever. Like, this is what I do. This is who I am. All right. I got knocked off course a little bit. And get back on. I'm going to be a mannequin by next year. I'm buying everything off the rack. I'm a perfect medium. It just fits. Everyone going to be hating. Right? He just put it on and look, it fits. Everything looks good on him. You give me a toga. It's going to look good. Because in my mind, that's who I am and that's where I'm at. So that's a little story for me about embracing this change that I'm in and being a new dad and, not being able to have all the time that I want and everything, whatever. Figure it out. This is what I signed up for, and I'm gonna make it work. That's all I got, my brother.
That's well said, and a good way to wrap it up.
Mannequin status, mannequin dad.
But yes, I want to thank we want to thank the audience for definitely tuning in every week. Thank you for the subscribers that we have. Okay, we appreciate
the count is growing. Oh yes, we've gained one more subscriber since last week. That's one more life impacted. Okay, we're embracing where we are. Okay, the people that are listening, that are tuning in, are y'all gonna get this wisdom, and lives are gonna be changed. And just share it with somebody. If you feel touched, just share it with somebody and say, hey, listen, these guys don't look at the page views. Okay, we don't compare. All right, don't look at Lewis Howes and be like, he's got Tom Bilyeu and, and E.T., the hip hop preacher. All right. We got the goods too. All right. That's right. I know who we are. Share it with somebody. Let them be blessed and hear a word that can impact their lives. We're just sharing, our life stories. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next week. Go to the gym. Pick up a book.
Everyone, thank you again. Products of Circumstance, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Fenton, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, bro.